A few months ago, the DRC sent the first copper shipment on this railway for transit onward to the United States. The trip used to take 45 days to get to the United States from that. But now it takes less than 45 hours. 45 hours because of the changes you've made. It's a game changer.
This facility will now be able not just to take in raw materials from its outgrowers in a scheme, small-scale farmers, having input supply to them, having an off-take, assured market, a fair price, improves their lives. This is great, but also be able to export beyond Angola and beyond Africa. This is what Africa needs today.
Zambian leader Hakainde Hichilema and U.S. President Joe Biden there, alongside some other presidents, as the United States pledges more money for the multi-country Lobito rail project during Biden's trip to Angola. Now, joining us now to talk more about this is Zianda Stearman. She is a senior analyst for Africa at the Eurasia Group, joining us from Cape Town. So, Zianda, thanks so much for being here. You did have an opinion column that you wrote in a local paper talking about a preview to this Biden trip, but you said that Biden will want his upcoming visit to be a sign of the times. Is that what was achieved, in your opinion?
I think so. By all accounts, the trip itself was a success. In terms of highlighting both the potential, but also really the current benefits of the Lobito project. This is a huge infrastructural undertaking, and that's deeply supported by the US, the EU, and others who are looking for, I think, real market access to critical minerals in Southern Africa.
You talk about market access. Is that the main benefit, you think, from a project like this? Or what is the benefit that a lot of these G7 partners are getting from this partnership?
I think it's, on the one side, very practically market access, both into Southern Africa, but also for those critical minerals from the region out to the US and the EU. And I think also, really importantly, it's the deepening of economic and diplomatic ties, between, again, Zambia, the Democratic Republic of Congo, and Angola. And those are all really deeply held goals for the governments of those countries who are looking to invest or looking for investments from, I think, a wide source, and trying to, I think, really widen their investment base past a country like China, for example.
But Zianda, I mean, much of the follow-through with this project is going to fall on incoming President-elect Trump. What's your expectation there? Do you think that the administration will prioritize it in the same way that we've seen with this current administration?
So the interesting thing there is that I think, it's better, honestly, for the project to not necessarily be on Donald Trump's radar or front page. We have seen in the first Trump administration that Africa wasn't particularly important, but in the background, there were some really interesting initiatives, especially around infrastructure financing and trade and investment on the continent through, programs such as Prosper Africa, as well as the creation of the International Development Finance Corporation. So this doesn't have to be a priority for Trump himself, but it certainly, I think, if this project stays in the background, but can show real benefit for the US, again, in their rivalry with China in particular, then it benefits everybody. It's a win-win-win, but it doesn't necessarily need to be, as I said, top of the agenda for Trump himself.
And yet, Zianda, we're still seeing China outpace the U.S. and others on foreign direct investment to Africa. Do you expect that will continue and Africa then will just be the beneficiary of a lot more investment because this Lobito project seems to be at least an early success?
That's a really good question, and I think only time will tell. The domestic politics across all three of these countries, and we haven't necessarily even mentioned Tanzania, which is a possible expansion point as well. The domestic politics in all of those countries are going to have to be favorable, to, again, the expansion and the growing of an opportunity like the Lobito corridor. So I think all of the ingredients are there for many of the countries countries, both in the region, on the continent, to really benefit from what is at this point a really, really interesting geopolitical rivalry, and one that Africa can absolutely capitalize on. But it doesn't matter what the individual governments, involved in a project like Lobito and other future investments, how they're going to be shaped, how they're going to, position themselves to really take advantage.
And Zianda, let's just finish on the G20. South Africa took over the presidency. How do you think potentially they can carry the mantle? We've heard Ramaphosa say this is about Africa and prioritizing Africa for the globe. What's your take?
I think that's very broadly true. That's been a hallmark of Ramaphosa's administration, where foreign policy didn't really quite take shape until I think the second half of his first term in office. But now it is really quite laser focused on common issues, that affect African countries, that really run the gamut from, climate change adaptation and equitable access to global financing, as well as equitable access to pharmaceuticals and life-saving vaccines. I think that'll be very much a focus for South Africa's G20 presidency. And I would expect, in the same way that Ramaphosa and his administration invited many African leaders to the BRICS summit in Johannesburg in August 2023, I would expect the same, going into this year's G20, especially given that the African Union is now also a member of the G20.